How you doing? Neil Still here for Neil Still's Reviews. Welcome to the second podcast. Short, whatever you want to call it. So last week we did AC/DC's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, which is a pretty generic sort of band. I love the CDs. I've been a fan since High Voltage, like the Australian one, back in '74. So yeah, been into rock and metal for like 40 plus years. Coming up to 50 years, not too distant future. So I've been a big fan. Done radio shows, written for magazines, do websites, all sorts of stuff. Also sing in bands, but I've worked in lots of different aspects of the music industry in Australia for 4 decades. So we'll talk about that as well in some of the reviews that will come up. Because there's lots of things that people need to know about the the music industry. Anyway, today's review is a band that I would imagine the majority of you watching this have probably never heard of. They're from Switzerland and they're called GOTTHARD. This is their 14th and latest album. It's been out for about, 6 to 8 weeks. It's called Stereo Crush. And no bullshit, 10 out of 10. Every song's a winner as a package from start to finish. It kicks ass. It's a fucking great album. These guys definitely have their own sound. 100% they have their own sound. There are elements of, a fellow country band, Crocus. There's a little bit of Crocus. For those people who don't know, GOTTHARD have been around since 1992. The Crocus bass player, Chris Von Rohr, I think it was, he was involved with the first album, and that was back in 92. They've had 2 singers. Steve Lee was with them from 92 up until, I think it was 2008, 2009, and unfortunately he was killed in a motorcycle accident in America. And his replacement was a Melbourne-based hard rock singer called Nick Meander. He joined. They did an album, Firebirth, back in, I think it's 2010. And since then he's done 5 albums with the band, this one being the latest. And Firebirth is a cracker, and so is this one. The band has got their own distinct sound, unlike the new wave of melodic rock bands out of Europe over the last decade or so. Bands like Dynasty, Heat, Wet. What's another one? There's another one there I've missed. Eclipse. And there's a whole sort of group of bands that have a very similar style, very similar sound. They all put out really good music, but it's all very interchangeable. You could take a singer out of one band, put him in another, and you wouldn't know the difference. Whereas GOTTHARD, excuse me, even though they've got a great rock and roll singer in Nick Meander, their music bounces around the hard rock genres a little bit more. At times there's a bit of Crocus. At times they sound like Bon Jovi in their prime. They've really got some really good stuff happening. Heaps of good melodies. I'm not a ballad person, but these guys do ballads as good as Dokken and Scorpions in their heyday. So, that's the sort of quality. And these guys have got something that no other band on the planet that I'm aware of, after being a hard rock metalhead for 40 years, these guys have had 14 number 1 albums in their own country, in Switzerland. Now, Switzerland might only be a small country in the scheme of things, big countries all around the world, but Iron Maiden certainly haven't had a dozen number 1 albums in the UK, and AC/DC certainly haven't had a number 1 album 12 times in Australia. So they've really got something going for them. Sound-wise, they're definitely worth having a listen to if you've never listened to them. You can discover they're a good melodic hard rock band if you're into bands like Bon Jovi and Kicks and all those new wave of Clips and all that sort of stuff, and maybe even a little bit of ABBA, I don't know. But yeah, they're a hard rock band. Look, there's elements there. They don't sound like Cheap Trick, but Cheap Trick are a melodic rock band in places, and these guys in places don't sound like Cheap Trick, but they have the tenacity as well as the melodies. So, look, they're definitely worth checking out. It's definitely, it's up until a couple of days ago when I heard the new Buck Cherry album. This one was my number 1 album of the year so far. So it's rubbing shoulders with Buck Cherry, so it's going to be a bit of a fight towards the climax of this year, unless something else comes along that is up there with these guys. Definitely check it out. GOTTHARD. It's a great album. Stereo Crush. See you next time. Cheers.